During the 60s and 70s, automakers competed fiercely in what became known as the horsepower wars. These wars give us some of the most ferociously strong and mechanically reliable engines ever built. Power units whose internal engineering lived up to the hyperbole plastered outside. In this video, we're exploring the top 10 engines of these eras. Number 10. Oldsmobile Rocket V8. Starting with the Oldsmobile Rocket V8, the Oldsmobile may no longer be on the roads as a new production model, but its legacy lives on, particularly thanks to its prestigious Rocket V8 engine. First introduced in 1949 in conjunction with Cadillac, this groundbreaking engine was the first modern overhead engine. The most renowned version of this engine is the Rocket 88 V8 engine, the earliest short-stroke high-compression overhead valve combustion centers ever produced. Though modest in size compared to some of GM's later engines, the 88's combination of power and lightweight design was revolutionary and found a perfect partner in the Oldsmobile 88. Originally, the engine was slated for larger and heavier Oldsmobile 98 before a shift was made to put them in the 88s, hence the change in name. Starting at 135 horsepower in 1949, the engine underwent significant evolution, eventually delivering an impressive 345 horsepower by 1964. Later models came with 400 and 425 versions, which set the stage for high-performance muscle cars. By the end of its production, it was used in both the Oldsmobile 88 and 98 models, so it did fulfill its initial purpose and even some unintended purposes. Moving on, we've a legendary engine that took the world by storm. Number 9. Ford Cobra Jet and Super Cobra Jet V8. In 1967, Ford faced tough competition from the Chevy Camaro and Plymouth Barracuda. Their Mustang's 390 GT engine couldn't match the Camaro's 396 engine and barely kept up with the Barracuda's 383. This frustrated Ford fans, and Tasca Ford, a famous dealership known for customizing muscle cars, stepped in to help. Tasca ordered 428 short block engines, modified them using parts from Ford's robust 427 race engine, and created the KR8 engine. It was so successful that Ford adopted it, renamed it the 428 Cobra Jet, and offered it as an option on various Ford and Mercury cars. The engine's reputation soared in 1968 when 4 of 6 Cobra Jet Mustangs won in the NHRA Winter Nationals Superstock class. This victory boosted its popularity, and when the Cobra Jet Mustang hit showrooms in April '68, it sold rapidly. The Cobra Jet package included strong transmission options, the top-loader 4-speed manual or the C6 Cruise-O-Matic 3-speed automatic. It also came with a reliable 9-inch rear axle. In 1969, Ford introduced the Super Cobra Jet, a performance upgrade nicknamed the Drag Pack. It included stronger connecting rods from Ford's Le Mans winning 427 engine, and new crankshaft, forged aluminum pistons, and an external oil cooler. Our next engine is a force to be reckoned with. Number 8. Buick Nailhead V8. The Buick Nailhead V8 made its debut in 1953 as Buick's first overhead valve V8 engine, replacing the older straight-8 engines. The initial 322 cubic inch version wasn't the biggest or most flashy, but it was dependable and refined, producing 188 horsepower. Nicknamed Fireball V8 and Wildcat V8, the Nailhead became known for its strong performance. By 1963, the engine grew to 425 cubic inches and produced 340 horsepower. This powerhouse was a strong engine built for enthusiasts, not practicality. It didn't follow the more consumer-friendly designs of GM and Ford, which made it a niche product. Though its sales eventually declined, it gained a strong following. Drag racers and hobbyists loved it. Legendary racer Tommy Ivo set records by using 2 Nailheads side by side to run a sub-9-second quarter mile. The most interesting part? It was used as a starter motor for the SR-71 Blackbird's jet turbines. Next up is another revered power plant. Number 7. Pontiac V8. Pontiac has a rich history of V8-powered vehicles, with classics like the GTO, Ventura, Bonneville, and Trans Am standing out. The foundation for these legendary cars was laid in 1955 when Pontiac introduced its first overhead valve V8 engine. Starting with 287 cubic inches and 173 horsepower, Pontiac engineers kept improving the design, increasing displacement and power over the years. One of the most notable moments for the engine came in 1964 when John DeLorean secretly installed a 389 cubic inch version of the V8 into the Pontiac Tempest, despite Pontiac's disinterest in performance cars. This bold move created the legendary GTO, one of the most famous muscle cars in history. The Pontiac V8 continued to grow, with displacement reaching up to 455 cubic inches and factory power nearing 400 horsepower. What's unique about the Pontiac V8 is that it doesn't have separate small and big blocks. Every engine in the lineup used the same basic block, making parts interchangeable across models and a favorite for hot rodders. Let's dive into AMC's answer to the competition, the Rambler V8. Number 6. AMC Rambler V8. In the 1950s, having an overhead valve V8 was essential for American car manufacturers to stay competitive. In 1956, American Motors Corporation AMC stepped into the game with its own V8 engine, taking it from concept to production in just 18 months. This first-generation AMC V8 featured a cast-iron block with a deep skirt design and a forged crankshaft with 5 main bearings and 6 counterweights. It was relatively compact and lightweight for the time, weighing 661 pounds. The engine's cast-iron cylinder heads and overhead valve design were typical for the 1950s, with modern squish zones and .040 inches of quench at TDC. Unlike other automakers of the time, AMC didn't focus on racing or performance. First-gen AMC V8s were rare in motorsports, and aftermarket speed parts were nearly non-existent. However, the engine found success elsewhere. It powered Chrysler Jeeps from 1965 to 1967 as the Vigilante V8 and was popular in Gray Marine's Fireball V8 lineup. Next up is a car that embodies the essence of American muscle. Number 5. Chevrolet 350 V8. The Chevrolet small block introduced in 1955 is often credited with changing the course of automotive engine history. It was a groundbreaking design, both innovative and technologically advanced for its time. The engine not only reshaped General Motors' future V8 offerings, but also influenced the entire automotive industry. The 350 cubic inch variant is perhaps the most legendary version of this engine. Built off the 327 block, the 350 featured a new crankshaft with a 3.48-inch stroke. The first version, the L48, produced 295 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. By 1968, the 350 was offered in the Chevrolet Nova, and by 1971, it had become a standard option in the Chevrolet passenger car lineup. In 1969, it replaced the 327 as the base engine in the Corvette. Over the years, the engine experienced various changes in performance, particularly during the fuel crises of the 1970s, where output dipped as low as 145 horsepower. Despite these fluctuations, the Chevy 350 remained one of the most sought-after and widely used engines in GM history, powering everything from the 1967 Chevy Camaro to various Chevrolet Corvette models. Up next is a favorite of muscle car fans. Number 4. Ford FE V8. The FE Ford engine, introduced in 1958, was not intended to replace the Y-block, but rather serve as a larger companion to it, sharing some of the same design features. Initially used in Ford Mercury and Edsel models, the FE made a significant impact despite its relatively short production run, which ended in the mid-1970s. Powering everything from Fairlanes to Mustangs, the FE was offered in 10 different displacements: 332, 352, 360, 361, 390, 406, 410, 427, 428, and 410 cubic inches. Of these, the 427 is widely regarded as one of the greatest Ford V8s ever made. While the high-performance FE engines like the 427 garnered most of the attention, the majority of FE engines were used in more mundane applications like full-size family cars and trucks. These engine blocks have since become a popular foundation for high-performance engine builds in the enthusiast community. We now enter the world of truly legendary engines. Number 3. Chrysler RB V8. Chrysler's RB engine line goes back to the earlier B-Series big block engine. Both B and RB Mopar engine blocks can accommodate large piston bore diameters of up to 4.34 inches or more with rebuilds, but the B engine had a relatively short 3.375-inch piston stroke, limiting its displacement to 400 cubic inches. To increase the stroke and allow for larger displacement, the B engine's deck height was raised, creating the RB Raised B designation. This taller block enabled a longer 3.75-inch stroke. The largest engine in the RB family, the 440 Big Block V8, features a 4.32-inch bore and a 3.75-inch stroke, which results in an actual displacement of 439.72 cubic inches. The 440 engine was widely used in the illustrious Plymouth Roadrunner and Dodge Charger models. The RB V8 engines were known for their reliability and smooth power delivery. While they weren't quite as radical or exotic as some of the Hemi engines, they offered great power at more affordable price points, making them very popular among muscle car enthusiasts. Moving on to the Chevy Big Block V8. Number 2. Chevrolet 427 Big Block V8. During the horsepower wars of the 1960s, GM introduced the Mark IV big block engine series in 1965. The first in the lineup was the 396 cubic inch engine, which quickly gained popularity. A year later, GM upped the ante with the introduction of the 427 cubic inch engine. By 1970, GM unveiled the even larger 454, but the 427 had already cemented its legacy. The 427 debuted at the peak of the muscle car era, before stringent emissions regulations of the 1970s limited performance. It delivered impressive power, producing 385 to 425 horsepower, and responded exceptionally well to modifications. Available from 1966 to 1969, the engine was offered in the Corvette and could be specially ordered for Chevrolet sedans during its run. GM also developed Corvette-exclusive versions of the 427. Cars equipped with the 427 often achieved quarter-mile times in the 13-second range, which was considered remarkably fast at the time. Though its production lasted only 4 years, the 427 remains a renowned symbol of the muscle car era. And now, the most legendary engine of the muscle era. Number 1. Dodge 426 Hemi V8. The 426 Hemi was introduced in 1964 as a racing engine for NASCAR. Chrysler engineers led by Tom Hoover designed the engine to become a game-changer to the competition. The Hemi name refers to the hemispherical combustion chambers in the engine cylinder heads, a design that maximized airflow and combustion efficiency. This innovative configuration allowed the engine to generate massive power with relatively high compression ratios. The 426 Hemi V8 boasted a displacement of 426 cubic inches, 7.0 liters, and was equipped with dual 4-barrel Carter AFB carburetors. After its successful debut in racing, public demand led Dodge and Plymouth to offer the 426 Hemi as a street-legal option in 1966. Known as the Street Hemi, this version retained much of the race engine's DNA, but was slightly detuned for everyday drivability. Join the ride by subscribing for more epic videos. Thanks for watching.